And I'll bring some cup of noodles or whatever. Like these guys, these management guys, could they do something very simple? It's just like go get like 100 cup of noodles, spend the $30, get 100 cup of noodles, heat up some water, pour some hot cup of noodles, and just hand out the plastic forks and let these guys have hot food, on their break. It'd be a pretty easy little Christmas thing, but they won't do it anyways. Welcome to the PARAcast. Welcome to your PARAcast, your hot UPS peak season preload / local sort / whatever, debauchery and whatever, eating in front of your men. Despicable. Anyways.
Those bastards.
Joining me
Tom gets to lord his authority over everyone, walking around the center with his chest puffed out, with his sweater on.
Just strolling.
Sweater means I am the captain of this place. I am the king of the gang.
It is. I'll tell you, it is loads of fun being the highest paid hourly employee and not having a boss within a 50-mile radius. And then just we need him. Don't make him mad.
We need him so badly for 3 hours a night, but we have to pay him for 10. And he's such a dick. He just walks around here with his chest puffed out and his sweater on, taunting us.
And now he's forming a gang, and I think they're going to try and take over the Teamsters.
Well, the great thing is like for those like 3 hours they need us. They need us so bad. So bad. Like literally, if we don't respot a trailer in time, you just have guys making $31 an hour just standing around.
You're like Chaz Murray. You're like, you want this trailer backed in, bitch, or don't you?
Yeah. Yep. Get ready.
There's only one of us that can put this trailer in the hole.
And it's so funny because our building is so tiny. It's just this little obstacle course that when we have the sleeper teams coming down in their big trucks, or like the contractor guys pull in there, we're like, we need that on door 4 or whatever. And then we'll see them for like 20 minutes trying to get it on door 4. We'll just like, please, all right, you're going to stop, drop the landing gear, put it down right here and leave. Oh man, I think I can get it. No, you can't get it. Please just drop the thing here. And then we'll make like a 2-point back and get it in there. It's just anyways. Joining me tonight. He thought he was running for director of a steak sauce. It's Robert Wyatt.
Steak sauce, area director, section coordinator. I don't care. I mean, it's all the same. I'm just gonna like make people pissed off at me no matter what I do.
Normally people lick up on the steak sauce too, which is weird. So it might go together. And I've seen.
I'm not saying no. Ew.
I've seen the future, and he dies in the most indignant death. Shot with a .40 caliber XD with grip zone. It's Steve Koski.
He gets up to heaven. He's like, "How'd you die?" I was shot with a .40 cal. You're going straight to hell.
XD with grip zone. I would literally beg them, please take my gun. Take my gun. It's like what is it? Maximus in Gladiator, where you like, give me a soldier's death. Give me a soldier's death. Give me a clean cut.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
As your vision's fading, please shoot me again with a different gun.
As you look into it, it says muzzle zone as it's about to flash. Anyways, I went out on. I think I decided to stay up late, and I stayed up till 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and I went to the indoor. Well, that's what it was.
Dude, I get it. It's just weird.
I woke up at 6 p.m. the night before and stayed up till 2 p.m. Anyways, so I went out there, and
it's already dark when you woke up.
Yeah, it's dark. It's dark when you wake up, but then you feel like I just got up early. That's how it feels. You're just like, oh, I got up early, because it's just like getting up at 6 p.m. I mean, at 6 a.m. So you just go, oh, okay, it's fine. So anyway,
someone's neck I can bite. Where's some blood I can suck?
Pretty much, right? Tom's gonna slowly become one of those.
So you went to the indoor range.
Dark people that inhabit 7-Eleven at 3 a.m.
So I played Optic Swap. So I got this back from Langdon Tactical, which was that P30 I traded Alex for. And so I got their little red dot cut, and I put that gigantic Quonset hut thing on it, the Siley on it. And I'll tell you, I hate carrying it like that, but I sure love shooting it like that, because it's just everything.
Hey, I'm going to go back and just be like, if I get shot with a Siley red dot, I'm going to be like, please go get the XD and shoot me with the .40.
Shoot me with
the grip zone.
I went and I took the 6 MOA Delta Point, put it on the PDP, and I brought my MP5K. And so I go out there and I sit there and I walk this thing on. The Siley has one big problem, and that is that the adjustments are not tactile. That's my main problem I found with it so far. And so, like, you're kind of like...
How do you mean, Tommy? What do you mean they're not tactile?
They're like...
It doesn't go click, click. You can't feel
there's
them
no
click
click
with your hand.
And there's not really anything in there when you're spinning the dials that lets you know, like, how many of what. I mean, it has some hash marks on the side, but it's just like how many of what have I spun this? And what do every one of these lines actually equate to?
You got what you paid for, Tom, right?
Pretty much.
He's got a point there.
Pretty much. So I ended up getting on there and I shot at 15 yards and I came out with, like, you know.
And it looks like a letter holder too. There's like
Yeah, you can put memos.
You put
by
your
cards
letters
in
on the
there.
right side, your little napkins on the left. You're good to go.
Who do I have to call? Koski.
Rolodex.
There we go. So, like, I ended up sitting there, get it, and I shot, you know, like a 3/4 of an inch group at like 15 yards from the rest with this thing, and I'm like, wow, that's really nice. The small dot really helps with that, and that's great. And then I get the MP5K out, and I put that at 25 yards, and I put a B out there, and I get this nice little, you know, X ring, you know, with 5 shots in the X ring after it's all like a tiny, like, well, I think I had to do like 1 tick up, and I get 5 shots in this X ring, and I'm just like, I'm rocking some pretty good guns. Then I put this 6 MOA Delta Point on this Walther PDP at 15 yards. This stupid $480 gun shot a 5-shot clover leaf at 15 yards. Like, all touching each other doing it. This every time I think I have something that's slightly better or like more comfortable than this gun, or like easy to put a red dot on or something like that. Like this gun constantly impresses. And I just more and more I think the world of this little Walther PDP. I mean, it's a fantastic little blaster.
So basically what you're saying, Tommy, is when you shoot a match again, after that, somebody's going to be buying themselves a really nice Walther
PDP. Like, listen, once I have 2 bad stages, get ready for a deal. It's coming in.
Yeah, you're ejecting that bad boy.
I mean, it has a little bit more felt recoil than the Glock, but that's it. Like, the grip is more comfortable. Metgar magazines, it uses the CZ or Beretta base pads if they don't have the tall ones like on these Hennings. I mean, it's just...
I mean, admittedly, being a Metgar magazine, that's pretty damn nice.
Yeah, I mean, they're not as cheap because you still have to go through Walther to buy them. But I mean, it
doesn't matter. I mean, the Metgar magazines, they just work. I mean, it's a solid magazine unless they use the CZ OEM, because those ones don't work because that's just CZ being cheap. But I mean, generally speaking, the Metgar stuff, whether it's Beretta, the CZs, Walther, they're fantastic.
Yeah, and just using a Glock magazine springs in the magazines, using a Glock striker spring in the striker, takes Glock sights. Like, it's really, really a freaking deal. And if people like these, like over like a Gen 5 or somebody's new and you go, I would like to get you a Glock, but here's something else you can try that's red dot ready, you can just hand it to them. And then all your little extra little Glock accessories, knickknacks that you can put on the gun. Like, I really freaking enjoy this thing. This LTT LEM P30, like, this is a cool carry gun. I mean, I really dig this thing. But I shot this and I really like shooting this. And then I just go out there and I shoot this and I'm just like, man, it is a hard bargain, and you can get a lot of gun for the money. Like, this thing could possibly shoot the same size if it had the same mechanical advantage as an MP5 at 25 yards.
That's the Walther PDP?
The Walther PDP. It is.
Huh.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Trigger?
Trigger's phenomenal. The trigger, besides the take-up, just super soft, 4-pound brake. I mean, it is built as a single-action trigger, and it has all the safeties. It still has the dingus. It ain't going to fall and kill you. But it just breaks nice. The magazine well is decently sized for what it is. It has a little mag guide at the bottom of it. The grip panels are fantastic. They're checkered. It's got a little bit of the finger grooves without showing the finger grooves, so you're kind of like half into finger grooveville, half out. Like it is. They are fantastic handguns. And if you're looking at getting somebody a gift for Christmas and you want to spend $500 on them, a Walther PDP is just. I besides the M&P 2.0 when that first came out, and now like the Walther has surpassed it in my book. I love that stupid thing. It's a great gun, plain and simple. It's a great gun. Almost no complaints. It looks bigger than a Glock 17, and then when you put a Glock 17 up next to it, it's the same size as a Glock 17. You know, it just looks fatter and chunkier. But then when you actually kind of get like a top down view, it's not much bigger at all. But the funny thing is this big old Delta Point Pro 6 MOA, which used to be considered one of the large competition dots. It's Babiesville. It's literally like, you know,
it's the mama bear. Mama bear, daddy bear, mama bear.
It looks like you could park that DPP inside of that Siley.
Yeah, it's the guy that she says don't worry about. That's the Siley. I mean, it's just one gigantic honking sight that's low cut. I mean, I don't know. It's a what would you call it?
Ugly.
Yeah, well, it is ugly, but it's the riches that you get in a couple really nice German-made handguns with some decent optics on it.
How long did it take for Langdon to get that gun turned back around for you?
So that only took about 4 weeks for me, but I think
not bad.
I think the other deal is they said that it was. They said, oh, did I just close my thing? They said that it would take to the 12th. And so they were closing shop on the 12th, and so they basically got it back to me early. So
that's good at least.
Yeah, so it was decent enough that got to happen. So I got it back pretty early, and so I just sat there with it on, and I was just like, oh man, I really want to go zero this. So I went out there and zeroed it, and I was just pleasantly surprised. Once again, American Reloading, 115 grain, high shock, hollow points. It was just beautiful for all three of them.
Let me tell you a little story about small group sizes. A guy that is not a pistol shooter but has some guns in Alpine sent me a text the other day, and he showed me these groups, and I was like, I got these groups at 25 yards, and they're like the groups you described. They're like cloverleaf groups. I'm like, this guy doesn't even know how to hold a pistol. And then I find out that he had just bought like a ransom rest that like clamps the gun down.
Oh,
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I get it now. You got some. Nobody was holding this gun when it fired.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I used to not be very good, but I've gotten very good at shooting off of a supported rest with the handguns. And like literally, like, so when you get like a B8, I'm not shooting at the B8 when I'm really trying to zero. There's like a little printout on some of the sides of these lower B8s in the white, which is like NRA something, and like a little stamp on it, which is probably a quarter of an inch in size, and just putting the dot on that thing and just firing away. I mean, right. You kind of don't know what's happening because you're basically putting the bullet right on the black printout when you're doing it, and then you bring it back and you're just like, man, I probably had a flyer. You just bring it back and it's just this. Barely tell that it's all 5 shots. I mean, I've never shot a handgun which is as laser beam, like I see where it is, the dot is where it is, I press the trigger, like the sight, bullet, like gun, trigger connection is so good on that stupid thing. It literally just goes, there it is. And now it appears.
So when are you going to bring it to a match?
As soon as I am able to enter daylight mode. I thought I was going to be entering daylight mode a little bit earlier, and then the most senior driver says, oh, by the way, I'm taking vacations the week after Christmas and the week after that. And I was like, oh, thank you, Dennis. Thank you. I'll cover.
Keep your cape out, Tom.
One day. IDPA matching, creating, cooking in the kitchen with Steve Koski. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so the guys at WDSA asked me to put together some stages, and I put together about 2/3 of them, and then I was flat out of ideas, so I just copied some other stages out of the library. But one stage I did come up with, which, is a kind of a standard stage, allowed you to shoot rested over the top of a barrel And we had a bunch of props there, so you could put whatever height you wanted. And we actually, so a couple of us have been taught the thing, like when you get a chance to put the gun on the deck and put the magazine down hard, you do that. And then the gun's really stable and you can fire really quickly because the sights barely move.
Mm-hmm.
And some other people didn't know that. And they were like leaning across the barrel and like their elbows were on the barrel, but the gun's in the air. And now not only does it bounce, but it bounces unpredictably because you've never done this before. So it's really unusual. And so those poor people got, I mean, you can still shoot that way. It's just slow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, the other part is too is like the gun. It's so funny when your body's not the thing that's supporting the gun, and there's not all the shock absorbing system that subconsciously can act within a few hundredths of a second to bring that gun down, and you just go like, only from the hands down, I'll rust this thing and fire this gun. It's like, let's just turn the recoil knob up 500%. We'll just turn that up, and we'll make it so it's unpredictable, and we'll make it so it's so shocking to you that you'll need like a half a second to recover from like what just happened. Should I do something else? And then you're just like, nope, you're hosed. Keep going.
Yeah. So that was fun on one stage, kind of new, and people who hadn't done that before. What else was fun? So there was the warm-up stage was you start with 5 rounds in the gun. You got to shoot 6 rounds at this 7-yard target, and you must shoot at least 1 round strong hand only. So I'm like the 6th or 7th shooter on our squad, and everyone's doing it right. They're firing 1 shot. Most people reloaded and then fired the last shot with their strong hand. Some people took an extra shot, which was allowed. A couple people took the first shot strong hand only, then put 2 hands on the gun and finished shooting. I, of course, reloaded and fired my 6th shot with 2 hands on the gun. And then a second or 2 later, I realized that I had broken the rule that I wrote. So I fired another shot, and the SO was like, "Oh, I don't think you needed to take that shot. They were all in the circle." And I was like, "Yeah, but I didn't fire a shot with 1 hand."
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh." So I almost wonder if I could have got away with it.
You could have got away with it, but you wouldn't like that's too much to process in the time. So like in IDPA,
yeah, right. So
IDPA, you get enough time to process it because of how like that would have been like a 5-second penalty. So if you just go, oh crap, and then go bang, like
yeah, it would have been 3 seconds. I probably waited 3.5 before I fired the shot. So anyway, that was kind of my own falling victim to my own stupid idea.
Saving phase.
We had another
stage
where you
got the match director, Steve?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, cool.
For that one. There was another stage where we cut the circle out of a target and fired a few shots from retention. And I don't know if this club had never done that before, but we had to explain it like almost every shooter. Like, just draw the gun, put your hand or your wrist or your forearm or something against your body, and fire the shots through the circle. Oh, and I had it, a decent. It's not allowed to be further than a yard away, so I had it about a yard away, which is still really close. You can point shoot all day long at 1 yard. But when we got to the stage, it was like a foot away. You could still have like your elbow on your body and put the gun through the hole and fire your 4 shots, which some people did. But anyway, it's closer than I had it set up. But oh well.
I remember fighting the like what was it like the nerves like remember when we all first started like shooting competition? You'd be like, man, I got to get like every little advantage I can get. If I can sneak up a little, if I can do this, if this target was a little bit closer, that would save me. And like nowadays we're just like, whatever, like, no, let's shoot it the way it's going to shoot. Like that's the part of the game. We're going to do this. And it's just funny how like that low skill set just kind of just keeps creeping it in. So it's like, it starts here, 3 hours later, it's over here. And not only are that, like, you start with your lips on the down 0 on the head. Like, start with your lips on the down 0 on the head. Give Fredo the kiss of death, and then speed rock him from retention. I think that's what it was.
The other fun stage that I actually designed was you're seated behind a table with your palms on your knees, 3 magazines with 6 rounds each in them on the table, an unloaded gun. And the first 2 targets are like really wide left and right. And you got to shoot these targets to the body and 1 to the head. All the targets you got to shoot to the body and 1 to the head. So these are like 2 yards away. So really, really fun. Blam, blam, blam,
Yeah.
So people had a lot of fun just blasting those, because you can even shoot headshots at 2 yards without You don't need sights for that. You just blah, blah, blam as fast as you can do it, and you still got the circle. Then the next 2 targets were like 6 yards, and there were some non-threats there, so you had to pay a little bit of attention, so that was pretty fun. Then the next target was a popper at like as deep as the bay could go, which wasn't very deep, so it was only like at 17 yards or something, a full-size popper. Not too hard to hit. And that activated a double exposure drop turner. And you got to get 2 to the body and 1 to the head, which isn't that hard. We can all shoot 10-yard headshots. And you get, 1 exposure, you shoot your 2 body shots, and the next exposure, you just wait for the head and you crank off 1 well-aimed shot. And that's not terribly hard if you've been around.
This sounds like one of the funnest stages that's ever been conceived. That sounds like the funnest stage. Just go, pa 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 pa, load again, pa 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 pa, load again, ping, pop, pop, pop. That sounds freaking
and
like a blast.
And like 2/3 of the people got the headshot. And so and everyone's cheering for him. Yeah, you got it. Because, they weren't sure they could do it. They're all like, oh, bang. There's, it exposes. But the funny thing, well, there's 2 funny things. The funny thing, so it's a 16 round stage, and you have 18 rounds. You get to miss the popper twice. You can't miss it a 3rd time. And so people would, half of the shooters, they go to that popper, they go like, bang, bang, bang. And it's like, okay, we're not going to miss this a 3rd time. They'd rip one off. They'd rip a second one off, and they'd be like, oh, shit, now I got to hit it. I'm like, we have enough.
Yeah, it might have been advantageous to start in control the whole time instead of just going, watch how fast I can Ricky Bobby this, and then like no sight picture shot. Oh no. You see a little excretion run down their leg, and then they fire.
No one on our squad ran out of ammo. Plenty of them missed 2 shots on the steel, and then they got it. So when I went to shoot it, the first time, the popper the drop turner wasn't activated. Okay, so I go back, I load my mags up again. A couple shooters go, and I go again. And the second time, like, it didn't pull the pin.
Oh, jeez.
So I go back, I load my mags again. The 3rd time I go to shoot it, I've overloaded my first magazine. Like, fuck. So I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The gun's not at slide lock. I stick the next magazine, and I'm like, oh, fuck, there's a procedural. Yeah, so. But I got all my hits. The other thing that I noticed on that stage that's really weird is I'm not super used to shooting with electronic muffs, and I'd stick the magazine in and rack the gun, and it doesn't sound right. Loading, like the hearing protection, the clipping cuts in as the slide closes. And it sounds like the slide hasn't closed all the way.
Oh yeah, because the.
So are you second guessing it?
I'm second guessing it on the clock. Wow. But thank goodness I had 2 tries to second guess it and realize that that's just how it sounds with the electronic muffs. Yeah, if the gun's loaded, fine, just shoot.
On the XLs, the Walker XLs, because it has this like digital clipping. Like once the sound reaches a certain part, it just cuts. It just instantly cuts. It's not like the analog one where it kind of like it just. Compresses or sounds loud or whatever. This one just goes click, 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 click. Anytime it senses something that's above a certain threshold, it'll just click out on you. So yeah, you can clap, drop a magazine or stick a magazine in. You can have a clip, and you just got to kind of like.
You got to just go with it. It doesn't sound normal, but you got to just trust that the gun loaded. And shoot it. And so it was fun. People seemed to enjoy the stages. That was nice. The one thing that was not nice is that I was just totally in la la land, like not being competitive, like not paying attention. I'm running shooters and I'm doing all the things, but I'm not like, oh, I should dump 2 rounds here and step like this, and I should be aggressive on this. And then I was just there shooting. And Lennon Stonebreaker, he's like, yeah, I should. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm clearly not thinking about this at all. I'm just kind of lazing my way through the match. And I was like, what happened to the good old days when Tom and Robert were there? And they'd be like, hey,
knock it off.
Do that. Do it like this. Like, pay attention. Like, you could really crush this stage, or you could be like 4 seconds slower.
When you come up with a stage plan, then Roger comes up, well, that's the stupid way to do it. That's the dumb way to do it in front of everybody. He's like, all right, Roger, fine. Robert, show me. Robert shows you, goes like, fine, your plan's better. Whatever. We'll do your stupid plan. Just to spite you, Robert. We'll do your plan, Robert. That's what we'll do.
You shoot
Mr.
it better than I
Smart
do
Plan.
anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the one thing I lacked was the focus to stay on target. Stay on target. Get out of there, Tubbs. You can't do anything back there. Or whatever his name was.
Porkins.
Yeah,
They named the fat guy Porkins. There's not even a pig in the whole Star Wars universe, and they named the man Porkins. Yeah, baby, I'm in Star Wars. Oh, wow. What character are you?
Who are you?
Porkins. Like Porkins.
You know, Porkins was in a lot of pornos after.
Oh, Porkos was slaying. He was making the Death Star run. Porkins,
slaying.
yeah,
Oh,
Porkins gonna come drop the proton torpedo hawk. Anyways, Robert.
Oh, that's a transition. What do you do? So we talked last week. We were going to do the CCW match. So we had our indoor match, and a whole bunch of people signed up and decided we wanted to shoot a CCW. And I was the only one. Actually, maybe not the only one, but I was one of the few that actually shot at iron sights. And so I shot it with my Shield Plus, and that's a transition. That was a change. First stage, get up. First stage, like make ready, put the magazine in, rack it, holster. I mean, I was appendix carrying, so holster the gun up. And I'm like, and they're like, "You ready?" I'm like, "Well, we're gonna find out." Timer goes off, pull the gun out, and I start shooting it like I shoot my Shadow 2. Same cadence, and that thing had a touch more recoil. I mean, it may have gone like 2 alpha, but alpha in the body and alpha in the head. I mean, it's just the way it was, and I couldn't. And so I didn't look at the targets, or I didn't look at the sights like at all. And I'm just like whap 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 whap, and I get done. I'm like, yeah, that was a damn good time. And I look back at the targets, and I'm like,
oh
those were damn good hits.
I will go out and I'll shoot some iron sights guns, and you'll try to shoot them fast for like a B8, and then you go like, oh, like when I got this P30 from Alex, I shot it with night sights at 10 yards, shooting a B8, and you're sitting there shooting it, and you're just like, oh, this requires like an immense amount of concentration to shoot an iron sighted gun fast. And then you realize like you go from like night sights or what came on the gun to like you grab a gun that has like Dawson's on it, and you go like, oh yeah, that's right. That's why as soon as I bought a gun, I had to put Dawson's on it, because the regular irons.
The other thing I noticed.
The point of impact, point of aim on iron sights is dog shit.
Yeah, it was, and that was the funny thing. I mean, like, this gun's always had just the standard iron sights, and honestly, they're great. I mean, the iron sights on the Shield, they work really well. They're point of aim, point of impact, within a little bit, depending on the ammo that you use, and they're fine. They work. And and to be really honest with you, I mean, it's safe to say, I think that like we are at this point in our careers, we are good enough shooters that we don't need the dot. I mean, in a CCW situation, we could put the gun out there and we're going to be able to shoot somebody doing bad guy things. That's just the way it is.
Yep.
But the thing I noticed, I mean, going back to that, is like where you used to have like a fiber on the front of your front sight, it gives you a little bit of that tracking. That didn't exist.
Yeah, there's nothing.
And you're shooting indoors. There's nothing there, and you're trying to shoot at some kind of cadence. But and eventually, I mean, it took 2 or 3 stages, and I figured it out. I kind of got it figured out, and didn't matter. I had a great time. It was fantastic. It was so much freaking fun, and like I just firmly believe at this point that we need to do more of these CCW matches. And people actually came up after the match and like, yeah, if we start doing more of these CCW kind of things, and it doesn't even have to be a dedicated CCW match at the indoor. Just if a bunch of us just get together and be like, we're going to shoot this thing CCW, we're going to start coming out more.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, because that's a fantastic match for doing that. It's a relatively low round count. The stages are simple and conducive to shooting that way, and it was absolutely fun. But it was a great time. Afterwards, I was talking to Josh Dobson, and he's like, if you he's like, if you get the site, I'll actually I could actually mill this into your Shield Plus for you. And I was like, well, what size should I get? And he's like, well, there's the Hollow Sun, what was it, the EPS carry. I'm back, baby. The Hollow Sun EPS carry. And he's like, and it's like, that's a good one. And I remember I was talking to Dave Blanton at some point and asking him, because he had done a big review of them.
Yeah.
And he said, go look at this one. I'm like, I looked up, and in a somewhat, impulsive purchase, I ended up buying one of the Hollow Sun EPS carry, the 6 MOA or whatever version of that thing.
For your
and
Shield?
then for my Shield Plus, yeah.
Plus?
And so I gave Josh the gun on Saturday at Saturday's match. I should get the optic Tuesday or so, and it'll be cool. I mean, it's such a strange thing. I really like shooting these CCW, kind of a CCW style match. I think they're just absolutely fun, and I totally want to do that more.
Yeah, and it's just crazy. It's like you don't think that you need the dot, especially when you start getting into like the Glock 26s or like the shields or stuff like that, and then you shoot them without the dots after shooting dots for a long time, and then you go do that, and then you're just like, oh, you know what I'd really like on this very, very, very small handgun? I would really like a dot. And it's so bad that even the revolver kids now are wanting to put dots on revolvers, so looking for some ways of getting them on the frames. So
oh yeah, well, and it gives you so much feedback that it's hard not to appreciate how important they are. And the nice thing about the EPS carries and the ones that are designed for these what are these called, like subcompacts?
Yeah, I would micro compacts. Yeah,
micro compact.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the optic actually sits on there. It doesn't have this massive offset footprint that you kind of want to, like, you wouldn't want to put the Sidley Bull on there because it's just too much junk. You're trying to conceal. It just doesn't work. Yeah. And so I'm excited for it. I honestly could shoot that gun with just iron sights on there and I'd be just fine, but I think it'll be nice to actually have them. And I kind of think going forward for most of this coming year, when we do indoor matches, I'm probably going to shoot it with my CCW gun, because if we have our outdoor matches, honestly, I want to shoot it with my Shadow 2. I want to shoot with my competition gun because that's just what it is. And just to have an excuse, because I mean, how many of us we have a CCW gun or whatever, and we shoot it once, twice a year. We never use them.
Yeah. I mean, I had the experience earlier this year of like shooting the Glock 19 and the Glock 17 and the Glock 34 out of the same holster out of the appendix rig that I was working on and doing that. And like, I got immense benefit and confidence out of shooting that because like I was didn't worry about the draw. I got good enough at the reloads doing that stuff. And then so like carrying the Glock 19 around, like I feel like, man, I got a lot of gun in there and it's pretty well concealed, and I feel very, very happy and capable with that kind of setup. And so I love the shooting from concealment in USPSA because unlike IDPA still makes you have to go fast, but like the USPSA style shooting out of an appendix really kind of pushes it. And the other part is like with the capacity and the guns that we are allowed to use in USPSA, but most likely the hit factor, it kind of pushes you to that limit of what you could do in USPSA. IDPA, you still can shoot fast and do all that stuff, but you just got to, count rounds. Where am I going to plan my little reload here so I can game it in a way, or round up here, or try to get this little head box at 7 yards, or how am I going to game this and shoot it? Because there's, doing the past couple like IDPA matches, there's a lot more gaming in it than I would say USPSA. USPSA is not a game. You're not gaming it, you're planning. Like you come up with a stage plan. IDPA is, how am I going to game the stage that they've provided for me?
That's true.
So
yeah, I mean, and that is kind of built into the system, isn't it? Because I mean, USPSA, it's what I always tell people. We provide you with a series of challenges and allow you to decide how you want to solve it. Whereas IDPA, in many aspects, this is the velvet rope, and make sure everybody holds on to the rope while you go through the tour. Yeah,
and then like how what little knick-knack things can I do to get to the end of this little tour as fast as I can,
and both of those, honestly, they have their pros and their cons. It's not anything good or bad. It's just kind of just an interesting thing.
Yeah. USPSA though is definitely the framework. If you wanted to do more with something, you could do less or you could do more if you wanted to do it, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing about that match at the Armory is we'll do USPSA, we'll do hit factor matches, we'll kind of just do whatever it takes, and everybody will have a good time, and ultimately that's kind of the goal with it. And if you can set up a system and a scenario where people are encouraged to bring out guns that they wouldn't traditionally shoot at a standard USPSA match, then I think that's all the more power to the ideas that you're putting out, and I think it's absolutely fun.
Yep, absolutely. And if you want to look good while you're doing that stuff, head on over. Dominate Defense. Get any one of their fantastic belts. You can use them. They'll hold up your competition gear, your concealment gear. I'm wearing mine right now, the Tier 1 concealment belt made by Dominate Defense. Use promo code PARA10. Save 10% off your order. You can also check out Precision Holsters Fast Holster, and they also make plenty of good concealment holsters. Use promo code PARA10 to save 10% off that. And more bullets in your gun. Rune Tactical, same promo code. Get a 24th round in the magazine. You're stepping in there with almost an AR-15 with 25 rounds in most firearms. Check them out. Use the same promo code and W74 guide rods. Bring the beef. W74 guide rods. Get a couple more ounces in the front of that blaster and some other types of accessories for you. Use promo code PARA10. Save 10% off your order there. Telegram. You got questions, we got answers. Join our little group. Go to download the Telegram app. Fantastic messaging application, and you can search PARAcast and you can find us and you can join our little group. I don't feel like we say that enough for people to find us.
Let's see, from our good friend Alex Mansfield, rubber for 81. Oh, maybe.
Well, so
Bruce Gary. Yeah, so Bruce Gary, Monday night, sent an email to all of us section coordinators and a handful of other people, and he tendered his resignation for Area 1 director. And so what that means is, because there's more than 24 months on his term, which would end in 2025, so that effectively means that the Area 1 is up for election. And so now you have people that are kind of playing the game and asking the question of who's going to run for Area 1. And
well, maybe the section coordinator should run for Area 1.
I think inside of Area 1, you'd find section coordinator. There'd be some good section coordinators that could run for it.
Utah would be a good one, probably.
Yeah, I think Utah could. I hear the section coordinator's an asshole.
Yeah, he's kind of a mixed. He's a mixed bag of nuts, but every once in a while you find a cashew in there.
Right. No, so I was thinking about it, and I think I'm going to run for area director for Area 1. That may or may not be a good idea, but I actually sent an email about getting a petition, because you'll need the petition to do that. Just at least get onto the ballot. And so I'm going to have to find at least 50 people who are dumb enough to stick their name on a paper. I think what I was going to probably do is show up at one of Jared's cop matches and not let anybody sign in until
they sign the petition, force them.
I know how this system works, but yeah. So I think I'm going to do that. We'll see what happens. Bruce Gary's got. He left Area 1. There's a lot of people inside of Area 1 who I think could be really good in it. And I think if I had my way in the world, there's a lot of the things that we always complain about in terms of what the organization actually offers to the clubs, and this feeling that nobody ever listens to the members, listens to the clubs. And honestly, if we could just fix that one thing, I think USPSA would be in a really good place.
Well, now you get, let's say if you run for it or whatever, you get to put your ultimate hat or do the ultimate of what you are willing to do for the sport, right? And so like, how good does that life membership feel now at $500?
Yeah, right.
Pretty good. Good. No, and I think everyone's in full support of you doing that. Now you'll have to be much more cagey than you normally would be on the show about certain issues, but we'll know as soon as diplomatic Robert shows up, we'll know exactly what you're saying without saying it.
Don't worry. I've been working on my Morse code. I mean, I got my ham radio license years ago, so I'll start blinking torture, and you'll know. No, I mean, if I got in, you do. You have to be careful. But I mean, a lot of the things that's actually one of the things I want to see go away. I'm tired of this idea of all the hiding everything behind 10.2.
Yep.
I'm firmly convinced that like most of the perceived problems inside of USPSA would be handled if we just talk to the membership. That's it. Just talk to people. Tell people what's going on. Tell them the truth. Tell them the good. Tell them the bad. But just talk to them. Tell them what you're thinking and say, here's my thought. I could be wrong, but I'm going to put that out there. And all I want is for you to tell me if we're doing things, if this is good or bad. And if you do that, yeah, some people are going to be upset at you for this, that, or the other. You're always going to have that. But at least if you're trying to talk to people, that goes a pretty long way.
Yep.
And so, let's see, from Dirk Hopkins. If we're working on the 3 strikes rule, why weren't Troy's other 2 strikes counted?
Because we're starting now.
Yeah, now. See, how it works. So here's the way you have to look at this. Mike Foley, he had 3 strikes. So Mike Foley, he got 3 strikes. And Troy gets 3 strikes. And when you hold up the 3, it looks like a W. And both of them were W's. And then there was Yi-Min who got 1 strike. So you can just play that out there, just put that out there, and just see how that kind of like plays.
Well, Mel got an additional strike too. Everyone gets as many strikes as is needed to do what the board wants to do with them. Like, how many strikes do you need to be removed from director of the financial, the co-chair? 1? Yeah, I mean, a bad question, a bad motion. Everyone is 1 to 50 strikes away from getting what they need to get.
Yeah, so Derek posted a lot about this, and I think it's interesting because they had this meeting to discuss what Troy did at nationals, and the people who've been around long enough, they say, well, which nationals? Because he does it at all of them, where he ended up yelling, like really verbally berating a competitor, Mark Stamper, and basically, as an employee of the organization, he berated a competitor, which is like, if the president did something like that, we toss his ass. But since it's Troy, we don't care. But they decided to have a meeting, and it sounds like they're going to come up with like this escalating policy of, if you do something, we're going to slap your hand, then we're going to slap your hand harder, and then we'll slap your hand even harder, and then maybe we'll get rid of you. Which is kind of stupid because Troy has had a long history of this. Well, if we applied this to Mike Foley, then Mike Foley still would have been president.
Yeah, well, and the other part is too is like the strike rules are kind of dumb sometimes too when it goes against the severity of what actually is happening. Yeah, like some things deserve to be removed, and then some things don't deserve anything. But I think like it's just a way to kind of go, we don't really have the guts to get rid of him now. We kind of still want him around. It's like when people are in charge of their friends at work, like where you're like they're the bosses. Like who are the last people to get like the ultimate thing that they're supposed to get? It's like the guy who's friends with the boss, right? Like It would have to be so outrageous that you'd finally get the firing. You might get a warning letter or something like that, but you're never going to get the final kibosh on what's supposed to go on. And I think that's.
Well, and I think that's kind of the problem right now is you have like, it doesn't really say, but by all accounts, it was, the three boomers who voted to, kind of keep Troy around.
Yeah.
Which is sort of problematic. I mean, one of them's gone. Now you got 2 left. Well, technically, I guess 2 of them are going to be gone, and then you'll have 1 left. But it's just this idea that why do we have these rules? And then you have Troy on an NROI podcast. He goes and he does this really like terrible mea culpa, and then his assistant DNROI sits there and laughs about it.
Yeah, the sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not really sorry. Ha 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 ha. Screw the competitors. We don't actually like them. It just the optics are just terrible on it, and that's the frustrating thing about the whole situation.
Well, I would say this. I would say like everything's going in our way. Like in April when they got rid of Yi Min, it was like the peak of the power move, and now what are we down now on the list? Where Wells is gone, been replaced.
Wells is gone.
Bruce Gary's gone, going to be replaced.
Bruce Gary's gone. Leighton's not running. Area 2's not running again. Rick Steele, I don't think, is running again. And so, yeah, I mean that leaves. But right now you've got. I mean, right now you've got Area 3 and Area 7, which is Arnberg and
Area 4 and Area 6,
and Frank Rizzi.
Yep.
Russell Fortney's in there, and I'm not sure where he lies on that. He's probably his own man, and I think that's fine. Area 4 is Mel Rodero, and I don't know what to think about that one.
Yeah, well,
I have issues because by all accounts he shouldn't even be there.
Yeah, well, but the other part is too. It's just like the other win, which is a win, is like Yi Min's back. Like, that's the guy that like. What do you think if you wanted Yi Min back or not? The point is they tossed him, and he's back in less than literally less than a year. They tossed him, and this thing just kind of went through and did it. Like they are like, hey. Bruce saw the writing on the wall. Like his business probably needs him, and I bet you that is the reason why he left. But it's a good time for his business to use more of his time.
Yeah,
it's a great time for your business to become very active because this is not going. I would probably suspect that 6 months ago that when they were probably talking with each other. They thought everything was going to blow over or be fine or whatever like this, and it is clearly they're getting their asses handed to them.
Well, I can tell you from my perspective, even if you get new people on the board, you're always going the problems are going to exist. I mean, it's going to take time to solve a lot of the problems in USPSA, but I still think one of the best things you can do is to at least be upfront with people.
Yeah, well, yeah,
there's so many people that are like, we just need to hide everything from people. It's like, no, you don't. The reality is if you were to live stream these, like the board meetings and stuff like that, in the first board meeting, you would probably, let's just use an easy number. You'd have 100 people that would tune in. The second one, you'd have 20. And by the third one, maybe 5, 10 at the most, because honestly, they're not really that exciting. And unless there's some drama that's going on, it's like people are just talking about ideas. But because you won't ever communicate with anybody because you're so afraid of what, like Derek or something like that might say, that you unintentionally give people like Derek more power than he should have because he becomes the only voice in the room. And the hard thing about that is if you look at the world from the idea of, friend and enemy, then you look at it strictly from the standpoint of if he is my enemy, then he can never say anything right, which is terrible. You should never put yourself in position because even your enemy can give you a lot of really good information if you're willing to listen because sometimes they're actually telling you the truth.
Well, because most like lots of times it could just be criticism and it could be good criticism. But like, I don't really think that anybody's after the whole point of like people disagreeing with them over rules or whatnot. There could be a little bit, but what people are really kind of upset about, which seems to be the common theme, is like the cabals, the secret cabals, and the choosing of people to remove from the sport or to blacklist from the sport or to make their lives miserable in the sport. Like we haven't even really been talking about rules for a while. It's about personalities and issues, and I think. As long as people are open and honest and willing to hear people and not joining in the this person said something bad or leaked some document, so therefore we're going to go after them and go after lie detector tests. It's just like,
if I told you that if I made the observation that the board makes a large amount of its decisions based on their emotions, I would be pretty much hitting the nail on the head. Because
Well,
that's how a lot of things come about anymore.
well, and that's how they choose their issues too.
Yeah.
They choose the issues based off of emotion.
And at the end of the day, I mean, we can solve so many of these problems. Let's just get out and talk to people.
Yep. Yeah.
That's really it. Just talk to people. I mean, in my business, I mean, this is the one thing that I've learned in the past 10 years. We go and we talk to our contractors, and I ask them every single time, like every meeting that I've ever had with them, at the end of it, I always just say the same thing. Like, tell me this, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And what can we do better? And I always explain to them, like, look, we think we know everything. We think that we're perfect, but as we've been told so many times, we're not. And inevitably, you, Mr. Plumber or Mr. Contractor, whomever, you do things in your professional practice that make a lot of sense. And if you tell me if you go and do it this way, I'll start drawing my plans that way because I know that it makes sense and it's logical. And you would think that people would be like, oh yeah, I mean, like everybody would do that. But I've been told by so many of them, like, nobody ever asks this question. Nobody ever actually takes the time to say, hey, there's some really smart people that actually know what they're talking about, and we should go listen to them.
Yep. Everything looks different at different altitudes.
Yeah.
It's just
if you just take the time and like talk to people and find out, like, tell me why you who've been shooting production for so long, why do you think that this actually is going to stick around? Why is it so important that we keep this? And you may not always agree, but it's a whole lot better than giving people just lip service and then just doing whatever you want on the back end.
Or why are people so bad for the sport that they can't come back?
Yeah.
Like I'm still waiting for the reconciliation process of bringing some of these people back that were discounted for criticisms that ended up turning out to be, we'll just say at least 80% correct.
I greatly would like to see. It's really funny. This is kind of the hard thing, even about running for area director, is, I mean, I have 8 some odd years of all the public things that I've said on this show.
Yep.
And I've been up.
Most of them hurtful. Most of all hurtful for your character.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if somebody wants to come after me, it's like, well, just go listen to the show.
And then meeting towards the ATF.
Sword, right? Yeah. It's such a double-edged sword because on one hand, it's like, well, I put my entire life out there. Most people know everything there is to know about me. I mean, all the good and the bad. But on the other hand, it's like, well, you've also seen me take a position and then change my mind and then take a position. And I think one of the hardest things that we do in life is people take a position, and then if you get new information, why don't you change? Why would you not change your mind on things?
Well, yeah,
that's what I've had to learn a lot. I mean, like I told you that one day, it's like, you had talked about all like Ben and stuff like that, and I was like, shit, I was wrong. And that's hard.
Well,
sometimes you're wrong about things.
But no cabals. No cabals and no digging into wrong positions.
Yeah.
Wrong positions are indefensible because they are naturally wrong. Do not dig.
Yes.
Do not dig a foxhole at the bottom of a trench.
Let's see. Since Robert's family doesn't like traditional Thanksgiving food, I'm curious what they have for Christmas dinner. Well, for Christmas dinner, traditionally, we will have. Sometimes we'll have like a ham. Sometimes we'll do that. The kids will sometimes eat that, but more often than not, we like pizza. That's kind of our thing. It's just been a tradition in our family because usually by the time Christmas Day is over, everybody's just tired, and so we'll usually buy a pizza the night before and then we'll bake that up. But Christmas morning, it's always a thing. We do bacon, and Andrea makes these 24-hour cinnamon rolls that are pretty darn tasty. As far as any other of those traditional foods, no, we don't really touch them. It's just not our thing.
I think I'm making tri-tip for Christmas dinner.
Dad, that's a damn good idea.
Hey,
that's a damn good idea.
Tri-tip, it's like you cook it like a ham, except for it's freaking phenomenally tastes a whole lot better. And like turkey or whatever, turkeys can be great, but I'll tell you, tri-tip. Here's the recipe for tri-tip. You take that tri-tip, 6 minutes per pound. You put it in the oven for 500 degrees. So if it's 3 pounds, 18 minutes at 500 degrees. As soon as that 500 degrees is over, you turn off the oven. You let it sit in that hot oven without opening the door or anything for 2 hours. You pull it up, you slice it, you resalt it on the inside, you serve it. Like it's fantastic. That's what we're rolling with.
Yeah, my friend, he gave me the recipe and the idea to smoke it, and that was probably the best tri-tip I ever had in my life.
No,
it's just so good.
Tri-tip's great.
Yeah, I love it. Let's see what else. I've recently decided to help a local indoor night USPSA match with stages. What classifiers should I be looking at that are indoor friendly and that aren't beaten into the dirt after all these years?
Well, that gets rid of half of them. That's Can You Count? And then what? El Prez. That's beaten into the ground.
El Prez. El Prez. I think you can still actually get a score out of it that you can use. Generally speaking, you're going to find most value in the 99 series because those are stand and delivers. It depends on the width and depth of your bays. Honestly, there's so few, but some of the newer ones, if you have enough space, you can actually get those to work. A little while back, Jake Martins posted on Facebook where he had taken one of the classifiers and he'd used the classifier setup and actually created, I think it was like 4 stages, which I thought was really, really clever the way he did that. And so some of the newer series, the stuff that has movement, if you're smart about it, you can build one of those and then have it shot 4 different ways, which can absolutely work. But honestly, gosh, dude, there's just not a lot.
Yep.
There's just not a lot. And so every time I always ask people, I'm like, look, I'll set a classifier up if you guys want, and we'll do USPSA. And they're like, well, can we just not do that? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that too. And so I'll run my USPSA matches like I have to. But if people don't want it, I'm gonna do what the paying customer wants because that's just the way it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, from Connor Williams. What are some good low round count rifle drills? Do you have any of the preferred drills when you're practicing your everyday carry?
Normally I like to have like the T-Rex drills or the fast drills. That's a pretty good like concealment carry pistol drill. I'm one of the low round count one that is freaking hard is X-Ray Alpha's CQB assessment. So it's like 40-yard line, 2 rounds per target from the standing position, 2 rounds from target in the prone position. A total of 8 rounds from this iteration. So it's like you get a par time of like 6 seconds. So there's a par time and then like 40-yard shots, 2 shots on each target, and then going prone and then 2 shots on each target on 2 different targets. Like that's in 6 seconds. That's sporty. And then the next one's from the 40-meter line, ending at the 20-meter line. 2 rounds per target, standing at 40 yards. Move to the 20-meter line. 2 rounds per target at 20 meters. And then at the end, 20 to 10 meters, it's 2 rounds per target. Starting at 20 meters, move to the 10-meter line, 2 rounds per target at 10 meters. And then the last one, standing at 10-meter line, 3 rounds per target, transition to a pistol, 3 rounds per target. So 6 rifle and 6 pistol. And then at the 7-meter line with an empty rifle, aiming through the sights, transition to a pistol, 3 rounds per target. Par time is 3 seconds on that one. And then standing at the 3-meter line, rifle, mag insert, bolt lock, weapon on fire, aimed at target, on the beep, change magazines and engage the target with 3 rounds rifle. Like that is, you're looking at 18 each target. So we'll have 18 shots. So you're probably looking at about 36 rounds of rifle and, a few little handgun there. But like that is a sporty one. That is kind of a drill that you run yourself through like 3 times dry fire and then go to actually shoot it live fire. And so that's a pretty good one. Anything that has the rifle that actually lets you go to different distance and change positions with the rifle. Because changing positions elevation-wise with the rifle, we don't really do it at all with a handgun. And it is almost a necessary part of having a rifle because changing positions when engaging with the rifle is beneficial. Makes you a little bit smaller target because generally when you're thinking about shooting things with a rifle, the things that you're shooting at also have rifles, which means you need to be extremely hard to hit because rifles are very easy to hit things with. So
So we could probably link that up in the show notes, right?
Yeah, yeah. I can send you the link to throw, or
That'd
we
be
can throw it in there. Yeah, it is sporty. Like you're hitting the deck hard to make those par times, and then trying to actually shoot alphas and do hit factor scoring on USPSA targets. That is a pretty good standard to go by.
Right. Let's see. From Jared Stepp, what is the best sandwich?
The sandwich that has you showing up for the show. Steve Koski's taking people to the airport and
he still shows up.
He's still
That's what we call dedication.
He's still showing up for half of the show. So the best steak sandwich to have. Any steak that was left over, that's the best sandwich to have. Period.
I don't know. I actually like just about any sandwich that doesn't have turkey on it. Turkey or seafood on it, I'll probably eat it. But I sure do like a good like a Philly steak and cheese. That's hard. It's hard to beat one of those.
Hard to beat steak.
Yeah. Steve, what's the best sandwich?
I was just.
Oh, I know.
You said
Steve,
turkey sandwich.
And
I
jelly.
couldn't stop thinking about a turkey sandwich. Turkey sandwiches and cranberry sauce and some lettuce and some mayo. Oh, heavenly.
I don't know.
Turkey. I like a turkey sandwich. Roast beef is definitely not. I always get like slimy roast beef, and I do not find roast beef to be particularly fantastic.
And I never had a steak, those Philly sandwiches until I was like 35, and I still cannot get used to them.
The best,
those greasy, slimy, gross sandwiches.
The best sandwiches are Italian subs, hands down, with the Italian dressing on them, on the lettuce, with the tomatoes and the onions, and the prosciutto, the capricola, the salami, the pepperoni, just big old stacks of meat with the red onions. Oh, caprico, whatever it is, it's freaking delicious.
Okay, Subway tuna.
Subway
tuna's up there too, pretty far.
No, tuna fish. That's just like super poor people food.
Tuna's good. I'm sorry, tuna's good. I'll back Steve up on this. I had a couple tuna melts.
I'm sorry, it's not gonna happen. I put tuna fish right up there with my mom's the
diapers,
peanut butter and jelly diaper Concord grape
diaper scented
sandwiches. Like,
oh, so good.
Oh yeah, there's nothing. There's
on
nothing
the road
better
and you've been eating
than
shit for 3 days, and you finally like, oh, I could have a tuna sandwich and not feel like I've been eating garbage.
Nope.
Can't do it. Eat your tuna sandwich with your loaf of bread.
From Alex Wendt, I've heard some people that Gen 5 Glocks don't like 115 grain ammunition. Have you heard of this?
My Gen 5 seemed to work very, very well with my 115 grain ammunition.
Maybe Alex just can't aim. I don't know.
I've had issues.
Fine.
I had issues with the Shadow systems with 115 grain ammunition, and it does seem like when you start reducing the recoil springs in some of the Glocks with the 115 grain sportier stuff, my groups tended to open up. But generally, with the factory recoil springs, 115 grain ammunition was still giving me like inch groups at 15 yards. So it might just be. You can always resize bullets and load bullets or powder charges in a way that would not assist the gun. But I generally find that the Glocks are pretty accurate with every bullet type you throw on them.
They kind of have to be, right? I mean, they're just It's just that they're just that gun. I mean, there's a reason they're the most popular handgun in the world. Last question from our good friend Mr. Sean Edmonds: if 9 Major were allowed as a scoring option in limited optics, would people shoot it?
I think so.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think
that advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
points.
Aim at Brown and start pulling 2 Charlies, giving you 8 points. You know, I mean that would definitely go there if people's guns could sit there and handle 9 Major and they allowed it to happen. Absolutely, they would. And you'd probably see some innovations in guns that would probably have the same sort of. If you allowed it in the division, you'd probably get some guns that were actually built around a 9 Major cartridge as like a Glock, like a Glock 17. You'd have a Glock 22 that was a 40 caliber, but basically dimensionally they were the same gun, but they would have some internal changes to support the pressures. And I bet if people allowed 9 Major, I bet you some company somewhere would actually produce a overbuilt gun for 9
I'm
major.
I'm sure after a couple of years, you'd see some new products on the market.
Yeah,
would you see 40 Smith and Wesson come back?
if they gave it major scoring, I think you'd probably see 40 Smith and Wesson come back. And it might be
arguably 40 Smith and Wesson would be a much safer option than 9 major, right?
Oh yeah, the bigger, heavier bullet is always preferable to the pressure gap that you're sitting there dealing with. And I think they would come back. I mean, and you might get 21 rounds in a 140 millimeter magazine of 40 Smith and Wesson instead of 23 or so.
It's like limited.
So yeah, you'd get that in a gun, go shoot it, and I'll make a reload one position. I'll make a reload one position easier for 8 points for 2 Charlies.
Well, at that point,
remind me,
how long would it before it killed off open, or would it?
I don't know if open will ever die because open just seems to be the place for people to throw money at. And I think there's a lot of people who like throwing money. Steve, what was your question?
So the higher pressure and the higher power of the 9 major round, you'd need. It's pretty much all hammer fired guns because they have more delayed unlocking because of the hammer spring and that whole mechanism. And you can't really get that with just the simple Browning gun that doesn't have the hammer to slow the unlocking.
Yeah.
Is that basically right?
Yeah. The whole process is completely accelerated, and then you have almost no space in the case to do anything else with because you have it crammed with 16 grains of whatever to get it to the proper pressures and velocities. So no matter what you get, you're gonna beat the hell out of it. That's for sure. And
but you can't do it in a striker fired gun. I mean, you could for a very short time, but then your gun's gonna come apart.
People say you can do it, and there's companies that have done it with Glocks. That I think Carver Customs does it.
What do they do?
Glock. I don't know, dude.
Put stiffer springs in it or something, or
must be something because I mean it's like people shooting coated bullets with an open gun. Yeah, people do it, but nobody good does it.
Not for very long.
Not for very long.
It's not a good long-term strategy.
Long-term.
Yeah, it's just not a good.
You're just going to just gum up everything in the gun.
I imagine that somebody that would probably be like Smith & Wesson might be a candidate for this because they could take their M2.0 platform, which they already make in a 45 and a 10 millimeter and everything else like that. And they could probably come up with a system if they started with a gun like that and then maybe started changing something with the recoil assembly. Like you would have like a super stiff recoil spring or a triple system or a double system to kind of delay the gun from coming out of lock. I mean, they could possibly do something like that out of a polymer frame gun. So that would probably be something they could do.
I mean, with all these companies, I mean, I think Glock is now one of the only companies that doesn't have a metal frame at this point, right?
Metal frame option, huh?
Yeah, I mean, would having a metal frame increase the safety? Is that the right word? The safety factor of
the
firearm?
I will always let a plastic frame crack on me than have a metal frame go off on me. I'll take the slightly smaller
the metal frames end up cracking too. The 1911 the STIs and stuff, when they end up failing, they get a small crack that starts growing.
Right.
Yeah.
In the frame.
Well,
or in the slide, actually. Sometimes it is the slide.
Yeah, and I had that round blow up in my Shadow 2, and it took out the extractor and the lifter springs. But I mean, outside of like my hands being black, a little bit of black from the soot and whatnot, I mean, thankfully I was safe. Yeah. So that's a win. I don't know if that. I mean, maybe wasn't that bad. Maybe a Glock would have been just fine as well. I don't know.
The one experiment that people could try if they could get the length to work is those old Heckler & Koch USPs, which were literally tested to fire a full house, put a squib in the barrel and then fire a full house 40 behind it and knock it out and still retain their accuracy. And the only sort of 45 caliber pistols that are made to take 45 Super, you want to see some hot shit, look up what 45 Super puts out of a barrel. Like that is some straight grizzly bear type action, and those HK pistols were made to do it. So I wonder if it was possible, if someone would buy an old USP 9mm and if they could get the loading right, shoot 9 major out of it and see how well it does.
I don't know. Okay, so here's my question. They introduced the G49, which was basically it was the concealed carry that everybody wanted with the long grip and the short
short grip long barrel. 17 17 length slide.
Sorry, I had that backwards. So what's the 50 going to be?
Oh yeah. Who knows?
They could do, I don't know, a 50 AE.
50 Action Express would be pretty baller. 50 Action.
Don't hold your breath.
They have a resurgence of the 45 gap.
The 50 GI.
The 50 GI, yeah, that'd be a good one.
It would definitely be cool if they actually introduced a full 44 Magnum Glock. Magnum Glock would be absolutely
6+1 round
of 44 Magnum. Well, anyway,
I'm kind of curious. I have another. See that coming out. Go for it, Steve.
Well, I have a short story I thought of. Wednesday, I was lucky enough to go day drink for the cops and get field sobriety tested 5 times.
I'll volunteer. I'll be tribute.
Curtis just went through the first half of post so he could be a SWAT medic.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Hey, they're looking for some volunteers to go drink and get field sobriety tested." And I was like, "I got some vacation days left this year. Sign me up." And I'm kind of a lightweight, I can't drink a lot of alcohol, so I was a little nervous.
We know because it's the Keystone.
Yeah. So we showed up. They spend 2 hours signing waivers, and the guy's just talking to you. And really, the waiver is quite simple, but he goes through the rules.
Tell me, 15 minutes in, you yelled out, "When we getting drunk?"
So he's real. This guy's done this many, many times. This trooper, and he doesn't want to be called trooper, but he's a highway patrolman. And he's like, just because you're here and we're drinking, it doesn't mean you can go shoot up in the bathroom. And if you do things that are illegal, you could still wind up with a charge. When you get out there and if somebody says something you don't like, you can't just pop them in the nose.
Oh my gosh!
And then,
at that point, though, is it entrapment? Because it kind of feels like entrapment.
And he tells us all these bad behavior, because you can imagine they've been doing this for years, and you get all kinds of people that come in and volunteer, and all kinds of shit goes down, and they're like, you don't want to have a rule named after you. If you tend to get the only way you could touch people, you could give someone a high five, you could shake their hand, or you could do a knuckle bump. But there was no additional touching. No, people are starting to drink, and it's 10:15 in the morning.
For you, the ultimate irony, of this would be, you get drunk for them so they can do a field sobriety test of you. You fail the field sobriety test. It's noon. You get in your car and you go to drive home, and they bang you for a DUI. That would be the ultimate. So
you have to have a ride home. You have to promise on your mother's grave not to drive for 12 hours. You can't. Yeah. I don't know if they follow you to your car. I actually got a ride there and home from the cops.
I would want them to take me home.
Yeah,
just so that the neighbors saw the cops dragging my butt out of the car.
I guess it was just in his private vehicle, but I had a cop take me home, which was great.
Oh. It would have been cooler in the back of the black and white.
Yeah. So we drank from basically 10:15 to 1, and then at 1 o'clock we went in and we went through these 5 different groups of cops, and they all had us do the field sobriety tests, and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1 with your fingers, and then the walk, heel to toe, 9 steps in a row, turn around, and then walk back, which would be fairly easy to do if you can put your arms out. But they're keep your arms at your side. Do you know how hard that is to do? Even when you're sober. I can't do that sober. And then what was the other one? The other one's lift your foot, hold your foot 6 inches off the ground.
Yeah.
Which, that doesn't sound very hard either, but you've had a few drinks. It's really, really hard. Unless you can, but you can't hold. Yeah, you got to keep your arms at your side too. So that sucked. Oh, and then the follow the finger thing. And when they get out towards the extreme, that there's something your eyes apparently do. Your eyes jiggle around.
Your eyes tremble. Yeah.
That to kind of gauge how drunk you are. But it was pretty fun. We had a nice group of people there. 2 firefighters that had apparently done this a couple times and brought games. So we played Exploding Kittens and we played like table toss. What's the game where you bounce the ball on the trampoline? Spike ball. There's some tabletop spike ball we played, and these guys made the whole thing. And the 5 groups, they pretty much all arrested me. They were like, "Yeah, we'd arrest you."
No pass.
If I was driving with this much alcohol in my system, I should be arrested about 3 times over. So
I failed drunk tank. That's Steve Koski's. I failed drunk tank. I failed drunk test. Darn it.
Yeah.
Darn it. Well,
good times with the cops.
Thanks for listening, downloading, subscribing. When you show up to your DUI field sobriety test meeting, make sure that you share this podcast with those other listeners so that they can have a good time while you guys are day drinking. Like you're looking for an excuse to day drink off the government's dime. How well's your life going? That story will tell it all. It will tell it all. So thanks for doing all that stuff. We love and appreciate you guys. For Steve Koski and Robert Wyatt, I'm Tom Nelson, being you peace, love, and soul as we depart into the open waters of the sea of life on a little tugboat we like to call the PARAcast.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Good night, everybody.
Tell me they had good booze.
It was just vodka and cranberry juice. It was fine.
Those cheap.
And they had Jack Daniels and they had some rum. It was just, that's all. There were 3 choices.
Well, will 8 pints of vodka get 10 people drunk? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We put down some vodka, I'll tell you. It was.
Yeah, Andy Erickson would have been so depressed in them.